This segment is sponsored by Strategic Wealth Designers. Most people plan for retirement the wrong way, but it's not their fault. So here to break down the basics of retirement planning the way it should have been explained all along is Thomas Riley, a senior financial advisor at Strategic Wealth Designers. Welcome back to Great Day Washington. Great to see you.
Great seeing you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, we love talking to you. We've got a good question for you. You know, a lot of people, they talk about the dollar amount when they talk about their nest egg, but rarely how to turn those dollars into income they can live on during retirement. So, Thomas, how do you help people transition what they've saved into income?
Yeah, and I think that's a big kind of tricky question, right? You work for 20, 30, 40 plus years. You might have a 401k or retirement plan through work. Now you got to take all that money that you saved and then make sure it lasts the next 20 to 30 plus years too. I think a lot of it is not as complicated as people think, but looking at, hey, how much am I going to be spending in retirement? And then what are my fixed income between things like pensions and Social Security? And a big thing that we look for in retirement is looking for solving for the gap. Which is the difference between your fixed income and your expenses. And usually that gap is what's going to need to be generated from your investments and your savings over the years. So it's really kind of looking at, your lifestyle and your income and kind of putting those variables together and mapping it out.
Yeah, solving for the gap, having a plan. You use a lot of great phrases. Another one you've used is sequence of returns risk. For someone who's never heard that before, what does it mean and why does it matter so much to retirement income?
Yeah, so sequence of return is extremely important when it comes to retirement planning. And it's really simple. Basically, what it means is that if you have a major loss in retirement or right before you retire in your investment portfolio, it's going to reduce the amount of income you can generate over the years. So one thing that we talk a lot about is what's called a safe withdrawal rate, which is about 4% of someone's portfolio. So if you have, say, $1 million saved for retirement, you can generate about $40,000 a year of an income if it's properly set up. But if that $1 million drops down to, say, $500,000, well, now you go from $40,000 a year in income down to $20,000. So really what it's saying is avoiding major drops in the portfolio within, say, 7 to 10 years of retirement or right when you go into retirement too.
Yeah, and properly setting it up, like you said.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, when you look at today's pre-retiree or retiree, what's the biggest income risk they're facing now that wasn't really on their radar 10 or 20 years ago?
Yeah, so if you back up, 10, 20, 25 years ago, a lot of people had pensions. Really what's kind of shifted today is the responsibility of retirement has kind of fell into the individual's kind of responsibility for relying on investments they've saved over the years. And so I think that's kind of the biggest shift is that you have to be able to rely on your own investments over the years going into retirement, especially if you don't have a big pension. So that's where, again, not to beat a dead horse with it, but it's going back to doing the planning side of it. How much have we saved? Is it going to line up with our expenses and our lifestyle in retirement?
Yeah, I think beat the dead horse. We need to keep hearing it and hearing it and hearing it. It's so important.
It never hurts to go over the same things over and over, so it's good.
I agree. Now, if someone watching right now is preparing for a retirement transition within, say, 10 years, what's the very first step you recommend that they take?
Yeah, so the first step I recommend is always getting educated. There's so much kind of information out there in the news today and kind of places that you can go to, but that's why I teach the class that I do at Retirement Planning University at Georgetown and George Mason. And so if you're really wanting to try to get more comfortable with retirement planning, it can be a scary topic. We go through 2 nights and kind of break down all the different steps between investments, estate, healthcare, and it's a really good course where you can kind of feel a lot more comfortable going into retirement and a lot more confident too. So that's where I would start at.
Awesome. Knowledge is power. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you so much.
For more in-depth retirement education, visit retirementplanninguniversity.com to sign up for classes happening in the DMV every month.